Welcome to the Path to Wholeness, where we explore the journeys, insights, and practices that guide us toward inner alignment and authenticity. I'm Bethany Ward, and each episode will explore the wisdom, challenges, and tools that can help us deepen our connection with ourselves and find our unique way to a meaningful life. Whether you're here for reflection, growth, or inspiration, I'm so glad you're joining me on this path. Today, I am welcoming Jennifer Zona from Loba Soul Support to talk about the role of ritual in healing and wholeness. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Bethany.
I am very excited to have you here. This conversation is rich and fruitful, and I am just very excited to be having the conversation with you. Can you
Yes,
tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your journey into spiritual direction?
sure. I am a spiritual director, psycho-spiritual life coach, also a Reiki master, but I started out as an end-of-life midwife doula. This has happened after I retired from a 20 plus year career in public education. So I was working as an end of life doula. And as I was sitting there witnessing people sharing their most intimate moments with me, they were accepting the choices that they made at certain times in their lives, releasing feelings of things that could have been or should have been, their regrets, letting go of unfinished business, so to say. I realized this was really resembling the sacrament of being given last rites, which of course is a ritual. There were times I just felt so frustrated that these wounds that they were sharing with me, that they had been held on for so long. And that's when I decided to pivot and include this process, this ritual, have you, earlier in our lives. I expanded my services beyond end of life midwifery, and I just couldn't help but wonder if people are going through this symbolic death, if they were given a chance to go back and retrieve one's spirit from the various corners of their life, to call it back and integrate it into who they are now, would things change? I don't believe this should be a ritual that we just do towards the end of our last breath. I believe this is something we should be doing on a regular part of human life at different points in our lives. We all face these crossroads where we need to let a previous phase of our life die off.
That's so deeply resonant. And I've often said that spiritual direction has been so meaningful for me because I don't understand how to do life any other way. I don't understand how to live an unexamined life. And I have a similar background where I was in end of life care. And I was similarly noticing that if we are ill equipped, these transitions are much more painful, they're much more dissonant. And when we walk this path of life intentionally, seeking meaning and examine every step we take, we can move through these transitions with greater ease and a greater sense of connection and peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, you know, I, I, I witnessed so many people just burying these experiences, these wounds so deep in our body, and we forget where we put them.
That's powerful to me. We forget where we put them
Yeah, and
and
they're going to come up. I mean, don't kid yourself. They're going to come up, and and I don't know. I'm of the mind that, like, let's just integrate it. Why are we burying it?
what's so moving to me is what you're really talking about when you say where do we put them is this opportunity for retrieval. And we're going to be talking about the role of ritual and wholeness today. And to me, ritual is a retrieval process. Where did I put that?
Absolutely.
And is it necessary? And how does it reintegrate into this whole picture of who I am?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about ritual. How do you define ritual? What are some of the elements you see in rituals
Yeah,
across different cultures and spiritual practices? But what does ritual mean to you?
right. So there's a lot of different definitions of ritual, and basically, I think they're all saying the same thing. But for me, ritual is an embodied symbol act that helps us create meaning to changes that have happened, are happening, or even may happen. I like personally to see ritual during the threshold moments when we're standing at the doorway between endings and beginnings. That's my personal favorite time. But a ritual is going to slow us down and allow us to step out of the ordinary and into the sacred.
Mhm. I love that idea of slowing down because we really have to pay attention to live an examined life. We
Yeah,
have to notice the
yeah,
life that we're living, and we have to notice
yeah.
some of those meta opportunities as
Right,
well. What am I being invited into right
right.
now?
I think, you know, like many others, I subscribe to these three phases of initiation, which is separation, ordeal, and return. And that's where I personally see ritual being the most useful at any of these stages. And we've all gone through this. This is revealing oneself to oneself. It's the original reason for coming to life is revealed to us, and we're separated from others in ordeal, and we tend to dwell within ourselves. This is where I hear people are like, I just don't want to connect with anyone. I'm feeling very hermit like. That's an initiation. And we don't call it that. We don't label it, but that's what that is. And then you're going to go into that middle ground of ordeal. And that's where the liminal space is. That's the betwixt and between, not knowing what's coming next and being open to being inspired. And you could be in that stage for, you could be that stage for 10 plus years. It's just, it could be brutal. And then the third part is that return, and that's the reunion, the welcome back to the community, the acknowledgement that one is different person for whatever they had been initiated for. Um, and that return involves the incorporation of new things learned, and we have to welcome people. People have to welcome us and see, they have to see that we've suffered through and that we've been transformed. And in that classic rite of passage, there's always that brush with death. There's always, this is where we learn that death is present with us. Um, it's an introduction. And it can be tricky, that return part, because you have to have a genuine sense of community to welcome people back. And in today's culture, the sense of community is always absent. And there aren't people willing to slow down and welcome you back to a deeper sense of your own self.
Yeah, I am changed. I am changed through this process. I am renewed and I have retrieved something in this process, but then I have to return into something. I have gone inward and now I need to move outward. And that welcoming is so essential. And I'm thinking also about the role of community. In congregational ministry, we often talked about ritual being repetition and how a community needs repetition and ritual to say, this is who I am as a people.
Mhm.
And so I'm seeing that repetitive invitation there in the return. I've gone inward. I've done what I needed to do to explore that territory. And as I return, I'm participating
Right.
in the ritual of this people in this community.
Yeah. And having that community welcome you, you're actually welcoming your unclaimed self.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
individual needs to be witnessed, the return to humanity, the return to understanding, return to being seen as a person who has suffered and a person who wants to be more in vitality and beauty in the meaning of life. You
And to
know,
be witnessed as this new person, I see
yeah,
the evolution, I see the
yeah,
change that you have experienced, and I'm bearing witness to this new part of you that is the you that is now.
right. Yeah, it's really my personal favorite is ritual in the liminal space, but I think the most important part, the most important place where ritual can be is at that return. Because if you don't have some kind of marker at the return, if you're not witnessed that you've gone through something, you're going to just keep repeating step one and two.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's very much the the embodied process of what we say within spiritual formation theory, which is the the outcome is to see more and to see more clearly, see
Mhm.
more of ultimate reality, see more of yourself in ultimate reality. But because that's such a nebulous and nuanced experience, we need ritual to concretize that, to embody that. Wait a minute, I do have new eyes. I do see more clearly, and I do have greater understanding and wisdom as a result. And that ritual affirms that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you think rituals are particularly important during chaotic times in our lives?
Um, I personally love to see when we take our pain and ritualize it. I think when we allow those heavy feelings of judgment, of self critique, loss, regret, chaotic, whatever it may be, if we allow them to seep through our pores and into our bodies, we tend to ensoul that pain. However, if we entertain that pain consciously and purposely, leaning and moving into the sorrows born from these missteps, then we can kind of go deeper into the tightness and restriction we're often presented with this opportunity to become what we're fleeing from. And then, as a next step, we may find a way to process our inner pain, and a portal may open to the mysteries of the life of soul. And, as humans, we're always looking to intellectualize things. And I think that could fulfill that need of needing to understand the chaotic.
I can see how that would help us reduce stress and anxiety too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, unfinished initiations, which I had mentioned earlier, if you don't go through step 3 to the return, they can create neurotic disturbances within the self. And like for me, I personally see this is why we see just such a rise in people suffering from anxiety, especially our younger adolescents. I have so many clients that, 20, 21, 25 in that range that they're just crippled by their anxiety. And they went through an initiation and no one acknowledged it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You just gave me chills. And I think that was why congregational ministry called to me so deeply early on in my career was this is the people that hold you, that take you through those coming of age processes and bear witness to that. But if when we know the data that church participation is declining and we're not filling that void. And so
Right.
spiritual directors really the invitation for us is to take them through the
Right.
totality of the initiation process and
Yeah.
bring them
Yeah.
and witness the return, bring them through
Right.
the ordeal and witness the return.
Absolutely. And each initiation prepares us for the next initiation. So if we're never coming to the return, we're not prepared for the next initiation. And then it's just this cycle of, and it's no wonder that we're crippled by anxiety and fear. The
Mm.
soul is wild. The soul loves it needs outside drama to confirm its
Mhm.
inner myth. It's
Mhm.
just part of it. And
Mhm.
and we tend to be a society that want to tone down the dramatics sometime, and
Mhm.
the soul's gonna forever try to express itself over and over again in a very
Mhm.
dramatic way.
Mhm. Mm. I'm appreciating the paradox of that's inherent in ritual as I'm listening to you because the soul is wild, unruly,
Mhm.
and unyielding in many ways, and it wants to be known and express itself for its multiplicity, and ritual provides that, but then ritual paradoxically also provides a sense of grounding and
Yeah,
moves us into, that full completion of that cycle, and now the system rests
Yeah.
and the mind rests and the soul rests because it has been known and expressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as we're exploring this paradox of the soul being wild and wants to express itself, yet and ritual provides us the ability to explore that. And yet at the same time, rituals are so grounding. Can you tell me more about how rituals and what rituals are providing this sense of grounding?
Absolutely. I really believe that we have to lose ourselves, um, so we can give birth to who life wants us to become. And when our old restricting identity patterns, they are meant to be dissolved away. But I think beyond dissolving them, we can really transmute them into higher states of themselves. And I think that rituals assist in this because they help us surrender these critical self judgments, sense of powerlessness, and notions of our self perfection. Rituals are where we lose ourselves to become ourselves. It's a continuous and progressing process.
Rituals are where we lose ourselves to become ourselves. That is the work, is it not? So,
Yeah, over and over
I
again.
mean, over and
I
over
mean,
again. And I always talk about spiritual direction with those I serve as a process of this continual discovery and this continual release and this continual recovery.
yeah,
And
I mean, our culture believes that death is at the end of life, and that's not how it used to be. In the old days, death was in the middle of life, and that makes more sense to me.
mhm,
I feel like I've died a million deaths now.
mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
it's just part of it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of Chardin, who said, "We must die daily,"
Mhm.
and to release, release, and that is what gives us new sight. And
Right.
as you're pointing out, ritual helps us to do that in a
Yeah.
concretized way.
Yeah, it's going to slow you down. It's
It's going to
going
slow you down, make you
and
pay attention.
honor these stages, honor these little everyday deaths, I like to call
Mhm,
them,
mhm,
so we
mhm.
can integrate them.
Yeah, yeah. And for some reason, that's reminding me of a ministerial mentor that I had who said once that ministry was just the willingness to be the designated human being. And as I'm listening to you, ritual does that for us as well. You
Mhm.
know, that ministerial presence is to stand up and say, "I'm giving this moment reverence. I am acknowledging this significant passage and I am speaking to the humanness of this experience." But ritual does that for us too. It
Mhm.
invites us into reverence, like this moment matters.
Absolutely. I think of it as an invitation to appreciate our sacredness, both which is within and around us. We can't rush that. Rituals
Mhm.
remind us to slow down. I often compare it to a slow birthing path that has to be traveled. And Joseph Campbell actually said, and he reminds us, the whole idea is that you've got to bring out again that which you went to recover, the unrealized, unutilized potential in yourself.
Mm. That
And
which you yeah, and we know we wanna recover it, but we don't necessarily have the language or the process or the
right,
ritual, and we sense that there's a recovery needed. We
right,
don't know how to
we don't,
claim that
right.
recovery.
And we learn so much from these grueling experiences, our dark nights of the soul. And what we know is that they're not achieved through quick fixes, the weekend seminar version of transformation. It's a painfully slow and what I would agree with as an inner odyssey almost. And it doesn't align with today's Western culture present expectation of the Amazon Prime delivery speed.
Mhm.
Going to take years. Can we hold space for it? Can we create
Mhm.
a container for that sacred piece to us that is dying and birthing at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. I want my package in 2 days, but I want
Yes.
my I
Not
want my
yesterday, this
spirituality to have
afternoon.
deeper meaning, yeah, and to firmly anchor me and affirm this present moment.
Right.
So, what are some simple rituals that you can recommend for listeners looking to incorporate them into their daily lives?
So I think, I think if you do anything daily with intention, it can become a ritual. You can have a daily gratitude practice, you can have a daily morning practice of, just sitting in quiet contemplation. You can have a ritual for when you need to bring in your discernment. So I think those are all, rituals and things that we can do individually. But then the bigger things, when we're going through those bigger initiations, I think that they obviously need to be done in community because you need to be witnessed. You don't always have to need to be witnessed. Um, we can have rituals with our dreams. I think you and I have talked about that, integrating, what's going on in our unconscious and really working with it to bring it to the consciousness. Um, I think this is rituals can be something that we do every day or something that we can really plan out with intention.
Mhm. Yeah. This moment matters in the everydayness of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I help people create rituals. So, and that's work that we do together. I don't just create a ritual and like, here you go, here's your ritual. That's something that they have to work with me on. And I invite people to consider like, what meaning does this hold for you? What what did it mean for you to go through this? What do you want to honor, celebrate, grieve, or remember through this act? And I think even when we take those daily rituals and we're sitting in contemplation, are you honoring, celebrating, grieving, or remembering? Are you remembering who you are, your connection with spirit, things like that? But for those bigger rituals, you definitely have to prepare. You want to clarify your intention. You want to know what has happened, is happening, or about to happen. You know, really, what are you looking to accomplish? Who are you going to invite to participate? What do you want to honor, recognize, support, or heal? Where should it take place? You know, symbols and actions. I personally always have each element represented in my rituals. I think that's very important for me. So there's quite a bit of planning involved.
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a bit of planning involved, and that is a deeper embodiment of a ritual. And then I'm also thinking about my morning inspiration hour, I
Mm.
like to call it. That is just a half an hour with me and a pen and a prayer. And
Yeah,
it's beautifully simple, but still acknowledges everything that you just said. What am I noticing in this space? Who am I inviting into this space?
mhm,
What conversations am I having within and without? And that that
yeah,
simplicity and that complexity and layered part of ritual,
right,
it
yeah,
creates its accessibility
right,
and relevance in our lives.
right. And that's a daily thing for you. And I invite people to think like, okay, those daily practices that you have, if you didn't have it, if you went a day without doing your morning practice, your how you would feel unbalanced, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go. That's
I
why
get a little yeah, unmoored.
ritual is it grounds you. It's very important. It's very important.
Absolutely. And then it's grounding, and I would be unmoored without my morning inspiration hour. But yet in that ritual of doing my inspiration hour, my soul is unwieldy. It
Yeah,
sometimes it wants to complain. Sometimes it's reflective or it's
right.
exploring grief, so there's this
Right.
wild forest wandered within this this
Yeah.
element of ritual.
It's almost designed to serve as like this alchemical catalyst of change and this attempt to return you to this wholeness and that your life has for you.
Mhm. I love the visual of that every when, this we're talking about my ritual, my daily ritual, but
Yeah.
any ritual, um, is I am being renewed
Yes.
every single day. I'm going through this alchemical process every single day. And through that, I am formed.
Yes.
And that is the work of spiritual formation.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to point out that in your practice, you're actually using your body, you're writing.
Mhm,
It's so
mhm,
important that we
mhm.
use our body to bring out as part of a ritual, to bring out into the consciousness. We have, you know, the mind intelligence, and you could sit in meditation and it's a beautiful thing. Believe me, I love it. I'll sit in meditation for hours if you let me. But if without incorporating it somehow in my body, it doesn't get to that intelligence center.
I think that's important for us as Jungians, and my listeners do have an interest in Jungian psychology, is to recognize that there's great value in exploring consciousness, but that consciousness also resides in the body, and there's a bodily wisdom that
Mhm.
is informing this this integrative and individuative process. And,
Yeah.
and to that end, I would love to hear your thoughts on ritualizing dream work. So, if you could just quickly tell our listeners your understanding of dream work,
Yeah.
particularly through Johnson's inner work and active
Oh, I love that
imagination,
book.
but just to bring us into how you understand dream work, but then how do we ritualize dream
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. So, I mean, the dream is, our psyche talking to us. It's our unconscious, what's happening. And, there's some dreams that are so confusing to us. And we really, it takes time, it takes discernment to understand what's happening in our dreams. What is the wisdom it's holding for us? And you can certainly sit and intellectualize that for days. I certainly have. But it gets to the point where you need to bring it from the unconscious to the conscious. You need to do some kind of bodily act to bring it into that part of your being. I think that we've talked about this. I had a dream and kept dreaming over and over and over the same thing, different contexts. To eventually, all of a sudden, one day, like a poem came from me and I wrote it down. And I'm like, I've never written poetry before. This is really interesting. Did it come from me? No, it came from my psyche, it came from my unconscious, but I didn't stop it. I didn't say, no, I don't write poems. I'm not doing that. Nope, I just let it flow. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And since then, I haven't had that dream.
Mhm.
So I really feel like there's so much wisdom back there that if we allow it to come forth through our heart, through our body, not just our mind, that we can really, really bring this symbolic act um, and create it from the unconscious to the consciousness.
Yeah, that idea of poetry as a ritual for processing dreams is so intriguing to me. And I'm remembering a phrase that you used when we were first in conversation, that you were letting your hands do the work as you were
Yeah.
writing this poetry. And it kind of goes back to affirming that we cannot integrate the wisdom of the
Oh, yeah.
unconscious and the
I,
wisdom of the soul. We
absolutely.
with just one element of our being,
No.
we need to invite other aspects of our being, and letting the
Yeah.
hands do the work is.
And it was interesting because I was witnessing myself do it. And I heard myself going, you don't write poetry. What are you doing? Who do you think you are? And I was like, nope, we're just doing this. We're going to let this happen. We're going to flow with this. And I was like, this is, you can really pull out the members around the table and be like, you need to be quiet because this part of you needs this, right?
Yeah, I may not be a poet, but my soul is.
Apparently.
And if I can to get out of the way and allow that to move
Yes.
through, we
Yeah.
can surprise ourselves through ritual.
Yeah. And it's that part of me now that, that wants to come in and shame the other part of me that I just laugh at. I'm like, oh, you're
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah,
You think
yeah.
you're in charge.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's to humble
Yes.
ourselves and to let the true wisdom speak.
But what really it is the wisdom embraces the whole of a person, the mind, the heart, and the body. And we don't always acknowledge the intelligence of the moving center or the intelligence of the emotional center, but they're there.
They are there. Yeah. And so much of your work is about this balance of the spiritual and the material aspects of life. And
Yeah.
this is what you are giving those you serve and that you're giving our listeners today is this balance. And so I'm curious about what specific rituals one could use or that you might use with your clients that aid in that balance of the spiritual and the material aspects of life.
Um, Aid in the balance. I really think that, we're really looking to see where somebody is in the process. Is it a beginning? Is it emerging? Is it a cycle? Is it an ending? Or are we actually healing for something? And knowing where we are within that space kind of helps knowing where to go through from there. But balancing that being and doing, we really have to pay attention and be present as we can be in each moment. And, obviously that's a lifetime task with no finish line. It's a daily intention for myself. But when I'm able to be in that place, to able to seek integrity within the task, what I'm doing when I'm doing what I'm doing. So I can understand, is this a beginning? Is this emerging? Is this an ending? Is this a cycle that I have? Do I need to heal something?
Mm, yeah. Do I need to heal something? And that moves us into the ultimate outcome of ritual is integration.
Mhm.
And that is our hope. So how do you see rituals as a way to help us let go of what needs to be integrated in our lives? And one phrase that you used when we were in our initial conversations was, I've done this ritual, and now I can close this book on this wondering. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
closing this book on the wondering.
Yeah. So it's on this path. uh, For me personally, my life is learning not to fragment, not to splinter or split off any parts of me, but to really integrate and learn from everything. And this is simply the love at work calling me towards an even deeper union with my true self.
Mm, yeah. And
Yeah.
then we don't have to keep digging when we encounter integration. When we first encounter that piece, we can acknowledge and accept that piece that we have some level of integration here. We have some level of understanding of why we traveled and where we traveled. And we don't have to dig any deeper. And this is something that I share a lot with the people I serve is we really don't have to come up with a goal list and go find it. The inner work will tell us what is emerging, how to navigate it, and then when to say, okay, I have the peace of mind that comes from integration.
Yeah.
But our culture is to fix. We have this
Oh, yeah.
natural desire to fix
Yeah.
our problems. And that's kind of
Right.
how you were saying that I want it
Yeah.
done and I want it now and I want my
Yeah.
package in
And,
two
and
days.
that's really us moving from ego consciousness to soul awareness, from being driven by these negative motivations and being drawn from a more positive source within. Um, who's really demanding all that? Is your soul demanding all that? Or is your ego demanding all that?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, the two U's and so much of the inner work is learning to discern
Yeah.
which aspect of self
Yeah.
is
And I caution people,
dominant.
don't cut off that ego.
Mhm,
We can't fragment the ego. We can't splinter it off. Like embrace it, but teach it.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, it serves a purpose. And yeah, we're very pro ego in these parts because it has a function to fulfill. It's just being attentive to what function
Yeah.
it is fulfilling in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
From your perspective, how do rituals help facilitate the journey from wounds to the sacred? How can they aid us in finding medicine in our experiences?
Yeah. So when you purposely take an experience and concretize it in a physical ritual, what we're doing is bringing it into our consciousness. That is part of Robert Johnson's work and from inner inner work. And this is where we're able to experience, to extract the medicine, the wisdom from that rite of passage, from that initiation, from that wound. And it takes time. It, I caution people that that integration isn't just going to happen. It's going to take time. Um, depending on which stage you're at, you want to take the medicine from the initiation. You want to take the medicine that you're getting at in that liminal space. You want to take the medicine that you're going to receive from the return.
That's powerful. And I'm recognizing that that is the work of spiritual direction. You know, you yourself are a spiritual director. I am a spiritual director. And it's
Mm.
really hard to describe the experience of spiritual direction, excuse me, to someone who hasn't fully encountered it.
Right.
And yet it offers this invitation for us to wander with our
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
How can rituals support this process instead of leading us to seek immediate answers? How does it help
Yeah.
us wander?
Yeah. So I want to share this quote from Joseph Campbell about ritual. And he says, just looking at it from purely academic point of view, a ritual is an action that puts the individual not only in touch with, but in the place of being the agent of power that is not out of his intention at all. He has to submit to power that's greater than his own individual life form. So if we think about that, that's a profound truth. And that's why our interior journey is often enhanced through a ritual of periodic submission to a presence and power that's greater than ourselves. And I think in spiritual direction, that sacred presence that assists us when we invoke it, right? And it's that idea of a ritualized inner journey that we can be led to ask some really personal questions like, where is the sacred thread of my life? Where is the self guided emotional alchemy? And where's the vessel to contain all this shattering? Spiritual
Mm.
direction. That's my answer. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Amen.
this is the venturing into the unknown depths of our soul. And that definitely comes with a demanding cost, as we know. And I think having that sacred container, such as a spiritual director, is the place to do it.
I wholeheartedly agree. So, spiritual direction does, in fact, invite us to wander within our experiences. But how might someone know when they are at that threshold of needing to wander?
Yeah, I think seeking a personal spiritual connection is something that comes from a deep place within us. Consciously or unconsciously, a prayer emerges to know the divine intimately. And a lot of times this sounds like, I no longer want to be protected from the group. I no longer want a mediator to filter my guidance. I want grace to move into my life and remove anything that interferes with an intimate union. Saying things like, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? These just aren't questions. I believe these are prayers. And
Mm.
it signals to me a start of an initiation into,
We hunger. Yeah, we
yeah,
hunger. And I think spiritual
there's,
direction helps us name the hunger
mhm,
and helps
yeah,
us wander into
right.
that
Yeah.
initiation phase.
There's, initiation, there's something dying off in you. Part of that false self is leaving you. You're on that journey and path to look for a more true self, a more authentic you, a wholeness that you haven't necessarily had before. It's going to be painful,
Mhm,
but it's
mhm.
going to be beautiful
It's
and
gonna be
it's worth it.
painful. It is worth it. And to have a witness
Oh,
within all of that, the
absolutely.
pain and the beauty
Absolutely.
and, the companionship. And I cheekily, but very honestly often tell those I serve, like, "You're paying for the skill set, but the love is free."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm here to bear full witness to the pain, to
Yes.
the jubilation, to the renewal, to the restoration, to the reclaiming.
Absolutely. Caroline Miss always says, no one should go in their soul alone. And
Mm.
I truly believe that. I say that all the time to people. You do not go into your soul alone. You
Yeah,
need a witness.
it's a broad, wild forest is how I often see
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And it's good to have a guide and a little bit of a
Yes.
map.
Otherwise, you're just cycling in a dark night of soul for 20 plus years.
Exactly. Exactly. But there is a way through.
Yes.
As we wrap up, what key takeaways would you like listeners to remember about the role of ritual in healing and wholeness?
I think that there's a number of things. The importance of rituals, the importance of slowing down, the importance of that return. For without the return, you're going to continue to cycle between the initiation and that liminal space. These are all human conditions that we all suffer from, processes that we all have to go through, but we don't have to go through them alone. There's a community there. There's a community that should be welcoming you back, acknowledging your suffering, acknowledging your transformation, acknowledging who you are now, integrating you into a more whole you.
Mm, a more whole you.
Mhm.
That's the invitation and the opportunity
Yeah.
and the promise, right? That is where we arrive.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom,
Oh, you're so
Jennifer.
welcome. You're so welcome.
Where can our listeners connect with you online and learn more about your work?
Yeah. I'm pretty active on social media, so you can find me at Loba Soul Support on Instagram. I also have my website, lalobasoulsupport.com, and my phone number and email are on both of those things. I do have a YouTube channel, La Loba Soul Support. Pretty much any social media, put in La Loba
Mm.
Soul Support, you'll see me. But
And
yeah,
there
if you
you
want
shall
to
be.
yeah, if you want to connect with me, you can always email me or phone works as well.
Thank you so much for enlightening our listeners, but also for me. I've gained so much richness from our conversations and affirmations around my own rituals, but invitations around rituals around dream work and other things that I hadn't really fully considered. So you have enriched me. I know you have enriched others, and I'm just so very grateful
Oh,
for your presence and your
thank
wisdom.
you. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be here and honored to talk to your listeners. Thank you.
And thank you for walking the path to wholeness until we connect again.